Daniel Sports Central, we go over a college football game preview and prediction on the 2022 Idaho Potato Bowl matchup between the Eastern Michigan Eagles and the San Jose State Spartans. Two teams have had good seasons getting to this point. You got Eastern Michigan to finish out the regular season at 8-4, one of the top teams in the MAC this season. And they're taking on one of the top teams in the Mountain West this season in San Jose State. Should make for a good matchup. We'll be over a full game preview and prediction on this match here today, starting with their team trends. Eastern Michigan beats Central Michigan. 38-19 was the final score there. So a nice dominant win to finish out the regular season there for Eastern Michigan over their rival in Central Michigan. Once again, finished out the season at 8-4. This team was close to winning their division. Almost made it to the MAC title game, but Toledo beat Eastern Michigan back in late October, and Toledo and Eastern Michigan actually had the same conference record and the same overall record heading into the conference championship week, and Toledo held the tiebreaker. So unfortunately for Eastern Michigan, they ended up missing out on the MAC title game, but either way, still a good season for Eastern Michigan, getting up to 8 wins. And as for San Jose State, this team beat Hawaii to finish out the regular season. 27-14 was the final score. They were 7-4 in the regular season. They only played 11 games in the regular season, mainly because their game against New Mexico State got postponed. It was postponed at the time, but it looks as if that's not going to be played anymore. So the Spartans played 11 games in the regular season. This will be their 12th overall of the season. Games be on Tuesday, December 20th in Boise, Idaho. Your kickoff is 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Spreads going with San Jose State by 4. Over-unders 54. And the FPI is also going on the Spartan side here, 66.5%. Series history, Eastern Michigan leads at 1-0. That game was in 1987, so we have seen these two teams play each other, but it was a very long time ago. Stat comparison for this one, Eastern Michigan, 64th in points per game. They're 69th in points allowed, so a pretty balanced team. They're not extremely outstanding in either area, but they've gotten it done on both sides of the ball. They're 86th in passage game, 70th in rush yards, and then for yards allowed, they're 22nd in passing, 71st in rushing. So you could say the main strength of this team is in the passing defense. If you look at San Jose State, this team is 61st in points per game. Strong defensive team here. They're 15th in points allowed, 30th in passage game, 122nd in rush yards, and then for yards allowed, 30th in passing, and then 24th in rushing. So yeah, this team they're decent on offense. Both teams are pretty much the same offensively. If you're looking at points per game, both teams are averaging right around 28 points a game, but San Jose State has been allowing an average of 8 less points a game. And once again, you look at Eastern Michigan, the main strength of the Eagles is in the passing defense. One of the main strengths for San Jose State is their passing game with Cordero, who's passed for nearly 3,000 yards, 20 touchdowns on the season. So he's definitely had a great year for this team. And I mean, this backfield really hasn't had not really a big outstanding season. I mean, their main running back has been Kyrie Robinson, who's put up nearly 700 yards and 10 touchdowns. But otherwise, Cordero's had a big part of this offense, and it's mainly been passing attack here for the Spartans this season. So you're going up against an Eastern Michigan defense that's their main strength is the passing defense. So that is something to keep in mind here. But as for the Spartans, they're good in both passing defense and rushing defense, being in the top 30 in both areas. Your recent matchups, Eastern Michigan beat Central Michigan 38-19, beat Kent State 31-24. They beat Akron on the road 34-28. So a couple of close wins there down the stretch, but they got it done both times on the road. They lost to Toledo 24-27. That game really came back to bite at the end of the season, considering that ended up being the tiebreaker for who ended up winning their division. And they beat Ball State the week before that 20-16. As for San Jose State, they beat Hawaii 27-14, lost to Utah State 31-35. They lost to San Diego State on the road 27-43, beat Colorado State 20-16, beat Nevada 35-28. So down the stretch, they don't really have many dominant wins this season. I mean, you look back, they got a couple of considerable wins, and those two were over Western Michigan and UNLV back in late September and early October. But otherwise, down the stretch, this team hasn't been terribly dominant. They've taken a couple of close losses. You look at that Utah State game, you look at the Fresno State game. They kept it close to Auburn back in September. So San Jose State's been pretty competitive all season. They really haven't been blown out too much. I mean, the worst loss for them was against San Diego State back on November 12th, but otherwise they've been pretty competitive. And I mean, Eastern Michigan is kind of in the same boat. Both teams are pretty similar if you're looking at how they played this season. I mean, Eastern Michigan, they took a couple ugly losses, that's for sure. I mean, you look back to the Buffalo game, they allowed 50 there. They got beat up by Northern Illinois, but they're competitive against Toledo. I mean, and you look at several other games, they beat Arizona State back in the earlier parts of the season. That's a Pac-12 team. They weren't very good this year, but that's still a Power 5 win. So both teams have definitely had their ups and downs this season. Your key points for this one, Eastern Michigan, Eagles have won 4 of their last 5. That's also something to mention. Eastern Michigan is a fairly hot team right now. They played very well down the stretch. I mean, they were 4-3 if you look back to mid-October. And since then, I mean, they got up to 8-4. So that was impressive what they did to finish out the season. Samson Evans, key factor on this offense. I mean, you look at this offense. You've had a couple of quarterbacks who've split time. You got Taylor Powell, who's been the primary starter, but you also got Austin Smith. And it looks like Powell's going to be the main starter for this game. We'll see what happens. But, I mean, the one constant here has been Samson Evans. He's had a solid season for this team. He's rushed for over 1,000 yards, 13 touchdowns. He's going to be a guy that San Jose State's going to have to worry about. And if you look at this team in general, they haven't won a bowl game since 1987. It's been a long time since the Eagles won a bowl game. So this is a huge opportunity for them to break that drought. I mean, you look back, I mean, they didn't even make a bowl game from 1988 to 2015. And, I mean, they've actually been fairly successful in recent history if you compare that period of time to now. I mean, since 2016, this is their 5th bowl game, but, I mean, they have been 0-4 in those bowl games since 2016. So, yeah, this is a chance for Eastern Michigan to break that. And as for San Jose State, you got a talented quarterback in Chavon Cordero. He's been very impressive this season. He's put up nearly 3,000 yards, doesn't turn over the ball very much. He's got a 20-4 touchdown interception ratio, so it's been a solid season for him. You also got the lead rusher, who is, I mean, Kyrie Robinson, but, I mean, once again, this backfield, I mean, this is just not a very strong rushing team. They're primarily a passing offense with Cordero. And once again, I mentioned this before, you look at both teams, they're pretty similar. If you look deep into both teams, I mean, offensively, both teams are a little bit different. You got primarily a rushing offense in Eastern Michigan, primarily a passing in San Jose State. But the way that both teams have played this season and the way that they've been down the stretch, both teams really, they've taken their losses and had their ups and downs. Both teams have been pretty similar. But I will say this, San Jose State is better on defense. That's definitely a big defining factor. You got two teams that averaging right around 28 points a game, but defensively, San Jose State has been better. And once again, not a strong team in the backfield, so that has hurt them at times this season, but they usually are able to get it done with Cordero. But that said, let's get to the prediction here for Eastern Michigan and San Jose State coming up here in the Idaho Potato Bowl. And I'm going to be going with San Jose State here, 27-20 is my predicted final score. I think I'm just more confident picking San Jose State here, knowing that this team has been better on defense. They're a more consistent team as well. I know that Eastern Michigan, you could argue they've played better down the stretch, but San Jose State, this team, I like Cordero a lot. I feel like this offense, I just don't trust this offense very much. And I mean, I understand. I mean, you got Samson Evans on Eastern Michigan's side, who's had a great season. He's usually very consistent, but I'm more confident with San Jose State here. They've, I mean, and you also got to look too. If you look at the trends, not saying that this is going to make a big difference, but Eastern Michigan, they have been 0-4 in bowl games since 2016. So if they can break that streak, this is obviously a huge opportunity for them to do so. But I just like the matchup here, and I like San Jose State in this one. It's just, yeah, it's a tough matchup for Eastern Michigan. And so, yeah, I'm going to go with San Jose State to win this one in the end. So I'll say 55% towards the Spartans, over-under 54. Give me the under here, and San Jose State to cover the spread in the end. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this matchup, and I appreciate you guys all watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.